The Royal Australian Air Force was founded on the 31st of March 1921, though it had been operating as the Australian Flying Corps since the 26th of December 1912, and thus is one of the oldest air forces in the world and the first of the independent air forces of the British Dominions. Despite its early start, however, it would not have its own native fighter until 1942, when the War Cabinet approved the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation to produce 105 Boomerang fighters in order to defend Australia against the Japanese invasion. The Boomerang was not the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation's first military aircraft. Its design was adapted from the earlier CAC Wirraway, a training aircraft and licensed production of North American NA-16. The Boomerang was not the first military aircraft built in Australia either. It was, however, the first fighter designed and made in Australia. Designed by renowned Austrian aircraft designer Fred David, who had just arrived at Australia as a refugee from Nazi-occupied Austria and had previously worked on aircraft for Heinkel in Germany and 8C and Mitsubishi in Japan, the Boomerang was developed and manufactured in the CAC factory in Fisherman's Bend in Melbourne. It took only 14 weeks for the Boomerang to make it from the drawing boards to the air. It made use of the most powerful Australian-produced engines, the 1,200 horsepower Twin Wasp, which was originally in production for use on the Australian-manufactured Bristol Beaufort bombers. By the end of the war, 250 fighters had been manufactured in 3 different variants. Despite the first drawing of Boomerangs being produced shortly after Japan's entry into the Second World War, it saw very limited air-to-air combat due to the arrival of over 1,000 P-40 Kitty Hawks and later licensed production of the P-51 Mustangs by the CAC. The Boomerang was relegated to service primarily in the Army-adjacent 4th and 5th Squadrons. The first known use of the Boomerang in a fighter/interceptor role was against a squadron of Japanese bombers off the coast of Western Australia. Flown by Flight Lieutenant Roy Goon of the 85th Squadron, the Boomerang was used to successfully intercept the bombers and force them to drop their munitions far from the target. Though no plane was shot down during the incident, the Japanese bombers retreated. There was also the 84th Boomerang Squadron, which operated at Horn Island in the Torres Strait. Horn Island was home to a major Allied air base, and as such was the second most bombed area in Australia, after Darwin. However, due to their slower speed than their Japanese adversaries, clocking in at almost 60 miles per hour slower than Japanese Zero fighters, the Boomerangs of the 84th Squadron were retired after only 8 months and replaced with P-40 Kitty Hawks. Flying missions over Borneo, Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, proving to be particularly effective as light ground attack aircraft in the dense jungles of Australia's front lines of Pacific Theatre. This role was aided by the craft's lightweight, armour, speed and ease of manoeuvrability, allowing pilots to operate close to the ground in the brutal conditions that characterise Australia's involvement in the Pacific Theatre. The two 20mm cannons and 4 machine guns the Boomerang was fitted with made it a formidable force in regards to attack on infantry or light to medium vehicles, essentially allowing it to operate in the same way a Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II does. It was also capable of spotting artillery and enemy divisions, marking it with a 9-kilogram smoke bomb, pioneering the concept of forward air control, which is still in use today. While not as widely used in the RAAF as the Bristol Beaufighter, or as well known as America's North American P-51 Mustang, the CAC Boomerang played a vital role in the defeat of Japanese forces in the South Pacific, as well as helping establish the Australian aviation industry and showing the world that Australia was its own nation capable of fighting for itself.